listening to the Chase Merrill podcast.
I did watch your video last night. Your video, your 100 miles that you just posted.
Yeah.
Good video. Does that you vlogged that? You vlogged that with your.
So during the 100, I had somebody there. She also had an Osmo Pocket 3. We had a couple cameras there getting content. So it was pulled from a couple different directions, and we all kind of uploaded it to one Dropbox. So.
Yeah, well, it was a great video. It was interesting to see because in my head when you were doing it, so you were doing 100 miles around the track. In my head, I was like, I bet he kind of hits a wall around 60, 70-ish miles.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of when you had your low point at that 60, 65 mark. And I think like you're over halfway, but then you still have a marathon and a half left basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you probably hit that, like 2, 1, 2 in the morning.
Yeah. I want to say it was around then. It was in that like 12 a.m. to, I want to say like 2:30 a.m. range, probably around there.
So lack of sleep's hitting you.
Mm-hmm.
It's colder. It's the darkest part of and everything's piling up on you right there. And then you just gotta kind of find a way to turn it around and keep going. For you, what kind of pulled you out of that?
Yeah, so I'll take a step back and just, those first 50 miles, I had a feeling this was going to happen just because of the amount of community that was out there with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to kind of ride that adrenaline for a long time, and just all those people are out there during the day with you. So your mind's kind of taken off the miles a little bit. But then at night, as you saw, I mean, there's your main crews there. We had a couple people stay all night with us that we were super blessed and thankful for, but there's a lot less people, right? So it's all that, fatigue is starting to hit you. And it was extremely hot for like from 12 to 7 p.m. We were getting pelted by the sun. So that fatigue started to set in a little bit. And yeah, man, you go into that dark spot, and there was a lot for me. This is my first 100. So there was a lot of ups and downs. And at first, you're like, how am I going to get out of this? It's like every step you're taking is hurting. That was one of the only points I walked. I was pretty proud of myself for not having to walk much, but during that stretch, I think I walked 1 or 2 laps. And when you're walking those laps, everything kind of slows down, and you're just thinking like, how am I going to pull myself out of this? And then I think we came into the aid station. Luckily, I had my girlfriend and my run coach there, was kind of pulling me through, just keeping me in high spirits. And then I want to say I came into the aid station at 75. And one thing that like really helped me was I fueled up, obviously, and then I brushed my teeth. Like I had my toothbrush there and I brushed my teeth, and like, I don't know, that just kind of like reset me. I had a little bit of caffeine too. And I just told them, I was like, I'm going to put my headphones in. I just want to run alone for a little bit. And no joke, like 2 laps in after that, I just like looked down and I was cruising like an 850 mile, and my legs would just felt fresh. Like at mile 75, felt like I hadn't been running at all. And that was one of the most insane feelings ever. It's like God just, gifted me fresh legs at mile 75 of a race. It was the most insane feeling, and I'll never forget that. So many highs and lows, but I think to answer your question, what pulls you out of it is just, it was easy for us knowing we were doing it for a bigger cause. It's not like we were finishing and get a medal or something. Like we were running for a lot of people and for mental health. So that was kind of just pulling me through the whole way. And I think everyone who ran can attest to that too.
When you brought your toothbrush to the track, was it for that reason? Like I need to feel clean, I need to reset. What made you bring the toothbrush?
Yeah, so I have a routine, kind of a habit of like, especially for my long runs, like right before I leave for the run, I'll just brush my teeth. I don't know, I just like having like a fresh, it just like gives me a good reset. And I just knew how long I was going to be out there, and I'm like, I bet there's going to be a point where this is going to feel really good. And I know it's like something minor, and it was amazing because at mile 50, which if I could go back and redo this, I would, but I had pizza at mile 50. Mm-hmm. And pizza usually sits all right with me, but this was from Domino's, and like, it just really, that was like a horrible decision on my part. So like not even just like stomach issues. It was a little bit of that, but more just like the Domino's pizza taste in your mouth. And then when I brushed my teeth, it just kind of, I was like, okay, I'm good. Like I don't have that nasty taste in my mouth. Like, so to answer your question, yeah, I kind of had planned that like beforehand.
It kind of reminds me of Courtney Dauwalter, like whenever she talks about like doing that 250-mile or one
Yeah.
of her long races, and she tells that story of how she was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna sleep for like a couple minutes, like 10
Yeah.
minutes, and then I'll get up and go." And then she talks about how she slept and like jolted awake, and she was the most rested she ever felt. And she was like mad at her team, like, "Why did you wake me? Like, why didn't you wake me up?" And they're like, "What are you talking about? You've been asleep for literally 60 seconds." And then
Yeah.
she's like got up and run. She said it was like the most restorative and restful sleep ever, and she's only been asleep for a minute. And so it's
Same.
always so interesting how the body can find ways to
Yep.
just revive itself.
It's unreal, man. And I don't know if you tuned in to the BPN Ultra this weekend. Did you see any of that? The Bear Performance Nutrition
Yeah,
go
I
on.
was aware it was going on. I'm also acutely aware of the finish. How disappointing for those guys.
Yeah, I know. It was like a biblical ending, you know. It's like
Yeah.
the only thing that was stopping those guys was a some form of Mother Nature, you know, which is insane. But they were going live every hour on the hour on the
Mhm.
BPN Instagram, and I was tuning into it. And um, Kim, one of the guys that was running it, had fell asleep for like I want to say 20 second or 20 minutes or something, and then he had to wake up and basically sprint to like make up for the time. So it was wild.
Mhm.
But it's just like you that sleep, you know, kind of resets, and it's like you don't need much at that point. Your body doesn't need much because it's not used to getting anything that far into it. So it's super interesting for sure.
What? And I know this 100 miles was for mental health. What made what made you choose that as the purpose?
Yeah, that's a great question. And sorry, my one camera's messing up a little bit, but
Oh, you're
um,
good.
yeah, that's a great question. So I went through some stuff when I was younger, mental health wise, and by younger I mean really, you know, a couple years ago, just kind of after college, um, and that I was just kind of in a cycle, man, of like I was in a fraternity in college, had really great memories, made really good friends, but was just in a cycle that you know I knew that I wanted more for myself in life, and just dealt with some mental health issues. Ended up getting in trouble a little bit. Um, And then it's just a problem that I don't think's talked about enough in our society today because it's almost meant, you know, it's almost talked about as like weak if you bring that kind of stuff up. So I just wanted to bring that to light a little bit and just make any difference that I could. At the end of the day, you know, we just made a small impact, but the fact that we were able to do that was really cool. And I left there with a lot of fulfillment. Um, you know, having chased impact rather than like personal gain out of that. So yeah, I think it's just something that sat with me, and I've had family members and friends affected by mental health issues. So um, just something that was always kind of on the back of my heart, and wanted to do something cool to kind of make a difference there.
Yeah, absolutely. Mental health is a it's an interesting topic to
Yeah.
discuss, particularly in males,
Hmm.
I think, as yeah, as males. Per, I guess speaking for myself, like I live above the neck more often than below the neck. So like it doesn't matter how I feel, it doesn't really matter, what's going on. It what matters is like what's the rational thought behind this. And my partner, my wife, she's very below the neck. Like she operates, how does this make her feel? Like why should she do
Yeah.
that? Not necessarily the most logical way. And I've spent a lot of our time together kind of trying to pull her over to
Hmm.
my side, which is not really I don't think it's the best place to be. I think there is a place, obviously there's a place for logic and for rationale, but I think living below the neck and just knowing how you feel and knowing being able to express that emotion, being able to pinpoint kind of why you're feeling that way or what you can do about it, or being able to express it and talk your way through that is
Hmm.
huge. And it's definitely something that I've been able to, or have been attempting to improve upon and improve my ability to talk through those things. Not because I know, not because those are correlated directly to mental health, but
Yeah.
but mental health issues are often stem from, the inability to talk, or the inability to express, or the inability to think that you should even
Yeah.
do that as a male.
No, I completely agree. And like you said, it all comes back to just being able to talk to somebody about it. Um, and I think that's where my relationship with God grew too, is because at one point, me and my girlfriend have been together for 5 years, and she's kind of seen me at my lowest as well.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I just felt like I couldn't talk to her about that, not because I didn't trust in her, but because I felt like it made me look weak. Um, so that's kind of how my relationship with God started too, is just talking to him about it. And then eventually, getting the courage to talk to my girlfriend about it. So to your point, I think it's just really important to be able to just sit with your emotions and understand why you're feeling a certain way, like you said, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get past it, is if you can, figure out the root cause of why you're feeling like that and then be able to talk through it with somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think you got the courage, or the self-reflection, or the ability to express that vocally, and how would you recommend other people go about
Yeah,
that?
that's a really good question. For me, it had a lot to do with growing in my faith and diving into scripture, to be honest. Because it's very similar to being a Christian. Like, a lot of people think from the outside looking in, you got to be perfect to have a relationship with God, or you got to clean your life up first to have a relationship with God. When in reality, like, He really does want you at your lowest, and He wants you to be honest with Him. And the more you're honest with Him, the more He's going to be able to help, impact your life in a positive way and use you for different reasons, and ultimately just give you light in your life. And whenever I started reading some of that, it's like, I need to flip this over into my own life too. Like, I need to start being honest with the people around me about how I'm feeling and what it's doing to me ultimately. And that's just the help you need at that point in your life. I wouldn't call it rock bottom. Like, I've been very blessed in life. Very, very thankful for my upbringing. I have a great family, great friends. Um, but I think everyone has their own struggles. I don't think you have to have this traumatic experience happen to you to have struggles mentally. And I think, to be honest, that's a message I preach a lot, because I think the kids like me who had a good upbringing, feel like they have no reason to feel that way. And then that's when they really struggle talking about it. So that's kind of what I dealt with. And yeah, so for my advice is just find your why. I was able to find my why through Christ, and He helped me ultimately get that courage. But I'm never going to push Christianity on everyone. You have to lend your hand out to God. You got to be the one to do that. I can't be the one for you. I can certainly encourage you, but find your why. And that's going to ultimately help you, get that courage to speak up and talk about it.
That's great. Do you think, how do you use running to kind of express that
Yeah.
message?
Great question. Great question. Yeah. So I got into running around that time, whenever I was kind of coming out of that dark spot mentally. And that's why I think I love running so much now, because it kind of pulled me out of that. And this might sound kind of silly, but, honestly, running just helped me. And committing to a goal with running, like, helped me a lot. Like, I committed, I'm not saying to do this for everybody, but like, I started running and committed to a marathon. Like, I just went all in with it. And it helped me because, like, instead of, going out drinking on Friday, waking up hungover on a Saturday, all this anxiety. It's like, oh no, man, like, I can't do that. I got a big marathon workout I got to wake up for tomorrow. And like, you just flip your perspective on that, and then you start feeling really good by doing that, and you eventually achieve this goal that you set out to do. And it's like, man, you realize what you're capable of doing. And so running just helped me a lot mentally. It's, when you're out there, I don't run with headphones like a lot. I don't listen to music. So I like to sit with my thoughts out there, um, have conversations with God, have conversations with myself, just like because I'm someone who's constantly on go. Like I just have a very go, go, go lifestyle mentality. So it's one of the only chances I get to like kind of sit there and be in my own thoughts. Um, and I think that's what a lot of people need mentally. Not a lot of us actually sit down in the silence and just like understand our thoughts. And there's like so many benefits to that, just being able to process your emotions and process what's going on in your head because there's so many things going on in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. The ability to be alone and to be
Powerful.
comfortable alone and to be happy alone is huge. I need to start running without music or
Yeah.
without entertainment of that type. Historically, I've always been very not
Yeah.
enjoying of running. I've always been a power based athlete, a speed based athlete, sprinting, heavy squats, heavy lifts, stuff like that. And as I transitioned more into the endurance, my siblings and I were training for an Ironman
I saw that.
70.3.
It's
So I
awesome, man.
gotta, yeah, it's been super fun. So I need to put a little bit more time into running without those
Hmm.
things, just to enjoy running more. So that's definitely something I need to do. Do you, when you do run, do you utilize a treadmill at all, or do you typically go
Yeah,
outside?
I'm pretty much anti treadmill. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I will utilize a treadmill. I will utilize it for like speed work here and there because you can really
Yeah.
dial into paces on the treadmill,
Hmm.
obviously. But more times than not, I'm avoiding it. Obviously, like inclement weather, I'll go on a treadmill.
Yeah.
So it's like a once in a blue moon thing for me for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, man, I saw you and your siblings' journey to the 70.3. That's awesome. I want to get into Ironmans one day. We have a coach through my coaching company who coaches all our triathletes. So
Hmm.
I'm really close to getting into it. I don't know when it's going to be, but I'm excited.
It's been fun. It's been a steep
Yeah.
learning curve, I will say, because none of us have ever done it before, and we're just kind of figuring it out. But it's been fun. With You said that was your first 100
Yeah.
miler. Plans for another? Plans for further? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Another great question. So going into it, man, honestly, I thought to myself, like, I think this is going to be a one and done thing. Like, not that I don't
Hmm.
want to chase that difficulty of a challenge, but I just didn't think it was my thing. I really enjoy marathon training, half marathon training, some shorter distances. Um, but after, man, I told my run coach, I'm like, I think I might have a future here, like with ultra marathoning. Like, I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and obviously, you go through those lows, but there was so many highs too, and those highs really,
Hmm.
really make up for the lows. And not only that, but you just learn so much about yourself through the process and your ability to push through hard times. And that's why I love running so much too, because it translates so well to real life. Because as you know, really more times than not everything is going according to plan, and you have to adapt and mentally push through, figure out how you're going to go about doing this, doing that. And it's like, that's what I really learned through that experience. So definitely plans for more in the future, 100%.
It's the longest you ran before that, a
The
marathon?
longest I ran before that, I did a 50-mile ultra marathon in the summer of 24. Yeah, so last summer I did a trail 50 miler. So that was my longest run leading into that 100, and that I didn't even do that long of a peak run training for it. Our longest training for this 100 was 35. Um,
Hmm.
and that's because we were doing so many other things like leading up. Like we did a high rocks like a month before. So we were trying to balance a lot of things, which was fun in itself. Like, um, and I'm a coach, like I coach athletes too, but I'm a big advocate of coaches needing coaches. So like me and
Hmm.
my um, employee coach that works for me, we have a run coach. So it was cool to see the programming leading up to the run and everything, and just how it might have differed from most people that were doing something like that.
What was something that surprised you about the 100 miles that you like enjoyed that you were not expecting?
Yeah, I honestly just just the community aspect of it and being able to just like the conversations you have. Like I knew there was going to be people out there because we really promoted this as obviously an event for a good cause and an event that we wanted the community to come out to. But I think going into it, you think, oh, there's going to become a point where like this is just really going to suck and nothing's going to be able to pull me out of that. And I'm just going to get through it
Mm.
because I have to. But the conversations that you have during an event like that and just the amount of people that get inspired just from seeing you do something challenging is truly awesome. So I would just say like the overall community aspect and like just seeing and watching how many people it impacted and like, weeks after the event, just like the gym I work at in Charleston, people talking about the impact the event had on them and like now they want to do something challenging is like just really fulfilling. So I would say like I didn't realize that that would have that much impact, but God had his hand on it the whole time now that I look back at it and is just really, really fulfilling in that aspect.
Yeah, the conversations that I'm sure come out of the delirious,
Hmm.
sleep
Yeah.
deprived, exhausted
Yeah. It's
mind
all real and raw.
at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
How did how did the lack of sleep affect you?
Honestly, not as much as I thought it would, man. Like during the low, that wasn't even one of the things I was really thinking about. I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm tired. This is why I'm feeling like that. I just like my legs were hurting. I was getting like nauseous. But really, the sleep didn't affect me too much. And then at mile 75, I had a white Monster Energy, and man,
Yeah.
that thing spring jolted me forward like no other. Um, so yeah, like not as much as you'd think it would, or not at least me. I didn't feel like the sleep was the biggest aspect, and I was worried about that going in because like I'm pretty much a grandpa, man. Like I'm usually in bed by 9:30.
Yeah.
I'm up at like 5. I usually run like 5:30 in the morning. So I didn't really do any training for that either. Like I didn't stay up all night to train for it or so I was surprised by that, but pleased that it didn't, affect me as much as I thought it would.
Just give me one quick moment, then we'll be right back to the episode. If you are enjoying the show, go ahead and give me a follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. It helps way more than you'd think. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating or a review, that helps new people find the show as well. And if you have any questions or comments or recommendations for guests, go ahead and reach out to me at Chase C. Merrill on Instagram or leave a comment right here on Spotify. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's get back to the episode.
My two of my siblings, the twins, and my wife, we've done 24 hours max distance around a track
That's dope.
before. And so this was me coming off of training like hard, super hard. I used to be competitive CrossFit, like 6 hours a day, training super hard. Then like cold turkey. So this is like a year after like cold turkey. And I've been in the gym like my whole life. And like I hadn't been in the gym at all for like a year, just like
Yeah.
total mental break. And so I went out and I wasn't planning out, like I didn't run at all. I was just like just walking around the track the whole time. And I remember my
Mm.
feet hurting so bad. And I wasn't even running. I did not
Yeah.
go 100 miles. I think I went like 50 over the course of the 24 hours. Terrible pain in my feet. And now, obviously, this is a lot from my feet being very
Yeah.
untrained at the time. Like I had cold turkey it. But how did your feet hold up during that?
So my feet are the worst, man. To be honest, it's the worst part about ultra marathons for me. Like for some reason, and I mean, I put a lot of time on feet training in. Like I'm a trainer throughout the day, so I'm constantly on my feet. But man,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just like one of those things I have to personally deal with. But they hurt pretty
Mm-hmm.
bad. Like I mean, definitely after mile 50, like you're feeling it in the feet, and it's just I think having a couple pairs of good shoes that work for you um, is huge. But ultimately, I think it's just something for me that like I have to deal with. So it's like, but just
Yeah.
knowing that, being aware of that is huge because I'm like, all right, this is going to happen. Like I'm not going to let it affect me, and that's just something that I learned through preparation and training because it happened in training, like during our 35
Mm-hmm.
mile peak run. It's like, and there's things I would do to try to combat it, like changing out shoes and socks. I did it pretty frequently during that 100 miler. But yeah, ultimately for me, I'm the same way as you, man. It's just something that affects me for sure.
Yeah. What kind of shoes do you
Yeah,
like?
so for the 100 around the track, I used ASIC Gel Nimbus 27s. They're a pretty cushioned trainer. And then I had a pair of the Brooks Glycerin Max, another really cushion trainer. And then I had a less cushion. I actually had a nylon plated shoe out there, the Nike Zoom Flies. So I ended up
Okay.
rotating those three. I didn't wear the plated shoe for a while just because of how slow we were running. Um, but it was a super light shoe. So like um, it just works. They're working just way different muscles, like way different stress on the foot. And that's when people run into injuries a lot when they get cornered into one shoe. It's stressing the foot out in the same way every time you run on it. So I always tell all of our athletes it's really important to rotate shoes. Like I like at least having two pairs because it's putting different patterns on the foot, different stress on the foot. And when you're just locked into that one shoe, that's where the overuse injuries occur. So did my best to rotate. Mostly wore the ASIC Gel Nimbus 27s and the Brooks Glycerin Max for the 100 though.
Do you like a high, like a
Heel to
higher
toe drop. Yeah.
millimeter drop?
That's a good question. Yeah, I typically do, to be honest. My foot has a little bit of a higher arch. So a nice heel to toe drop suits me pretty well. I also like a narrow shoe. My feet are pretty narrow. So like wider shoes, like Hoka's are generally pretty wide. Um, and I think Hoka's are great. I've had great experiences with them, but sometimes they just give me blisters because my foot's wiggling around. Like they're a little too wide for my feet. That's why Nikes are narrow. They do really well for me. People in my running community always ask how I wear so many Nikes, but they just do well for my feet. Um, and same with Asics. I find them like a little bit more narrow. So it's just finding what works for you. Like, and for anyone listening, I totally recommend like if you have a store where you can go get kind of fitted and get an expert on your feet, it's super beneficial. I went to Fleet Feet back in the day and got the whole foot exam. And obviously you have to do what works for you. Like they're giving you the science behind it and it still might not feel the best for you. So you got to figure it out yourself. But I think that data is good to know. Um, Especially like going into Fleet Feet where their workers, they're all runners. So they have a pretty good opinion on what you should be wearing.
Yeah, it sounds like we have the opposite feet. I've got fat,
Yeah.
wide, flat feet. I've been running in ultras. I like the 0
Heard really
millimeter
good things
drop
about them. Yeah.
and I like that they have a wide
Yeah.
toe box. Because spending all my life kind of in a gym in like a 0 millimeter like
Yep.
weightlifting shoe or barefoot, just once I go up on that elevated heel,
Yeah.
it feels awkward. It feels like it's putting pressure where it shouldn't be. So I've been enjoying a 0 millimeter drop.
Yeah. When you weightlift, are you like a Vivo barefoot guy? Like what kind of shoes do you wear in the gym?
Usually, like if I'm going in just to lift weights, like I'll go in like in
Yeah.
Bird
Yeah.
socks, and then I'll just like kick the shoes off if I'm like squatting or something like
Exactly
that.
what I do too.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty chill. And then if I'm going in for like CrossFit, if I'm throwing in down like on a Metcon or something, I wear a shoe called
Oh yeah.
Rads. They started like
Yeah.
in the CrossFit
Rads are
community.
awesome, man.
Yeah, they're a sweet shoe, 0 millimeter drop. Big fan of both Rads and Ultras. But my wife, she's a runner. She runs quite a few marathons. She's training for
Let's
Boston.
go. Heck yeah.
Uh, and she says she preaches the same thing to me. She's like, you got to switch up your shoe. You got to switch up your shoe. And I'm just like, I don't want. I'm super sensitive with my feet too. So like, even if I get the exact same pair of Ultras, those first few runs, those few miles are still painful
Yeah.
on my feet, even though it's a shoe I'm comfortable with. So if I put on a shoe that I'm like not comfortable with, it's such a pain getting used to.
Yeah. It's one of those things for running. I just had this conversation. We had a guest on our podcast last night and we were talking about this. It's that mental block that you have to get through with running. Like I still go on runs where the first 2 miles sometimes are like horrible. And then all of a sudden you'll catch a little runner's high and bounce out of it, get into the flow. But I think that's the problem with a lot of people when they like people that want to get into running, they can't get past that piece of uncomfortability. It's like there's so many good things on the other side of that. Like, even if it's your first mile, the other side of that mile is like just getting out of that comfort zone a little bit. And it all starts with just, even running that first mile for some people, or stepping out the door. But it's like some people, because it is uncomfortable, like it's not, our bodies usually don't like it. So it's like just being able to push past that little mental block at first is huge.
Yeah, for sure. With running, are you a big proponent of certain supplements,
Yeah.
certain nutrition styles? What do you eat and what do you take?
Yeah, great question. So I'm someone who weight lifts and runs. So just putting a lot of stress on the body, and putting it through a lot. So fueling is really important. It's something that I like to pride myself on because I'm a nutrition coach myself. So for our athletes that we have, I really pride myself on just making sure they're fueling correctly. But just some general guidelines for endurance athletes. If you're doing like anything under, if I'm doing anything under 60 minutes, you generally don't need too much, especially if you have food in your system from the day already. Um, you can carry a water with you or whatever you like to carry out there, but you generally don't need too much fuel if it's under 60 minutes. I personally like to have a little bit of carbs in my system. So I run in the mornings. I'll take 1 scoop of Tailwind, which is basically a carbohydrate and electrolyte mix. So it gives me like 25 grams of carbs, and I want to say like 350 milligrams of sodium. So carbs for the energy, sodium for the hydration. Um, and then anything in that like 60 to 90-minute range, I like to tell my athletes that we want at least some carbs before the run. So whether that's, if you're a solid food person, some things that are great are, banana, honey, rice cakes, even candy. Like some of my athletes come to me for the first time and I'm like, I recommend candy, and they're like, what? And I'm like, endurance is different. Like they're quick
Yeah.
digesting carbs. If you look at like a gel, like an endurance gel and a box of candy, like they're the same on the back pretty much. It's the same crap in there. So candy's good. And then anything over that 90-minute range, I like about 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour. So it can look different for everyone, but generally like what we do with our athletes and what I do is like, say I'm going on a 90-minute run, I'll have some of my Tailwind before the run, which I just explained to you. And then I'll do a gel like every 30 to 40 minutes ish. Um, or if you don't like gels, like I said, you can use something else, but that's kind of what I do nutritionally. And then eating wise, I won't go into too much detail. It would probably take a long time to explain, but I eat a lot. Just to sum it up, like I think there's a lot of people that under fuel out there, especially people that are doing endurance and strength. Like you just need a lot of fuel, and if you want to keep size, keep muscle while you're doing it, um, you have to get a lot of fuel. And a good general guideline I could give you guys if you're an endurance athlete is like 1.2 to 1.4 kilograms per pound of body weight of protein is something I go off of for our endurance athletes. And that's just going to help you keep that size. Obviously, as we discussed, carbs are really important for endurance too, but I think there's a lot of people that under fuel out there just because there's that like whole thing around like, oh, I want to lose weight and start running at the same time, when really those are two, like, if someone's coming to me for weight loss, like strict weight loss, and that's their number one goal, I'm probably not going to recommend running, to be honest with you. So it's just fueling. It becomes really important to sum it up, and just don't under fuel, especially if you're doing both and putting your body through a lot.
Absolutely. What are your feelings on to do it under fueled? What are your feelings on training like fasted to develop your fat adaptation to improve your ability to process and use those as
Yeah,
fuel?
that's a great question too. I think there's definitely benefit to it. And like I said, if you're doing a run that's a little bit shorter, like anything under 60 minutes, I think you can find all those benefits in that training fasted. Same thing with weightlifting. I used to train. I used to weight lift fast. This is before I ran. I would lift in the mornings, and I would train fasted, and I loved it, man. Like I loved how I felt. I would just wake up, drink water,
Mm.
go into that training session, and obviously there's benefits to it um, that have been done through research. I just think those bigger efforts, as it gets a little bit longer, maybe like if you're doing an intense CrossFit session or an intense, an intense Metcon, like or a longer run than 90 minutes, 90 or more, like it becomes really apparent that your body is going to need that fuel and need that energy to be sustainable. So I think there's benefits to both. I just think the longer the workout gets, the more important it becomes to fuel beforehand and during.
Absolutely. Back in the day, I was about 500 to 600 grams of carbs a
Yeah.
day. Eating was the worst
Yeah.
part of
Yeah. Yeah.
training
Yeah.
back because you're just shoveling it down and anything you can do to get the food in. So if once you cross into the threshold of athlete or
Hmm.
competitor, food is just an as equal a
Oh my
part of
gosh. Yeah.
of training.
Yeah.
Like they're neck and neck. You can't have one without
There's,
the other.
yeah, there's, not to cut you off, but I used to be the same way. I was like just trying to shovel carbs down. Like I went through a phase of
Yeah.
bodybuilding, so like I was dialed into my macros, really dialed into hitting my carb
Mhm.
goal. Um, but a lot of the times when I was doing that, man, like I just didn't feel great, and
Sure.
I definitely don't get as many carbs in nowadays. Like I really dial them in around my training because I know it's important then, but I used to have a way higher carb diet, and there's a really like high push for that online around endurance too,
Yeah.
like the high carb. And there's we go into a whole nother podcast on this, but
Mhm.
to your point, like I used to be the same way. So it's like just really figuring out what your body feels good off of too.
For sure. That was when I was competing back in CrossFit. Since then, I've shifted to a lot higher fat, lower carb.
You
So
feel you feel
now
pretty
I
good off
eat.
that too.
I do feel pretty good. I'm still dialing it in. So I did like a 2 hour plus higher intensity bike
Yeah.
ride and I did it fasted and I could tell kind of the last 45 minutes I was
Yeah.
dragging a little bit. So I was like, okay, I need to maybe introduce a little bit more carbs
Yeah.
before then. But I feel great. What I've been doing is I usually have about only 2 meals a day with like a snack. So I get up but they're like
Yeah.
huge meals, like a pound, like 20 ounces of like 80/20 ground beef, like
Yeah.
grass-fed ground beef with like honey, fruits,
Man.
beets,
Yeah.
maple
Can't
syrup,
go wrong,
like
man. You
yeah.
feel so
So
good after a meal like that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then so I have like two of those meals a day, and then like sandwich in between there is usually a snack of like some fruit and some like protein
Yeah.
drinks. Like I use like Equip, the beef based protein,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
isolate. And I got that because my wife, I guess, like she always complained like her stomach would hurt when she took like
Hmm.
whey. It's like, okay, well, let's switch it up. Let's try this beef, and it seems to not bother her. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah.
So it's been
No,
great.
that's I eat very similar now. Um,
Mhm.
I have a little bit more carbs, but like people, I'll always get questions from people like, "Do you follow like the animal based diet?" Because they'll see my stories and like a lot of times I'm
Yeah.
eating ground beef, eggs, fruit. And I'm like, I don't really
Mhm.
necessarily follow that diet per se, but a lot of what I eat is that kind of stuff just because I just find it makes me feel so good, man. It sits well with my stomach. I'm not super bloated. Um, Satiating,
Satiating.
yeah,
You're
and it's
full.
it's great
Yeah.
for people who want to lose weight because like you said, a lot of fiber in that kind of diet, so it's going to
Mhm.
satiate you really well.
Yeah, it's been great. As my training continues, I'll tweak with adding a little bit more
Yeah.
carbs, trying to find what that form is for me. It probably will end up being just some kind of dextrose,
Yeah.
some kind of just
Yeah.
carb drink. We'll see what that is. See where I can find a good one that I like. But I'm hesitant to switch out because I've really enjoyed just kind of having fruit as my main
Yeah.
basis
You
of
just got to
carbs.
find one cuz I'm the same way like I love utilizing the carbon like a carbon electrolyte drink because I don't like stuffing myself too much with carbs before a workout like that.
Mm.
And I don't know if you've ever tried it. I would highly recommend, not sponsored at all or anything either, but I highly recommend Tailwind. Tailwind's really nice, man, because it's a very smooth consistency, and it's almost more salty than sweet, which I really enjoy. And it just sits very light in the stomach compared to like other carbon electrolyte mixes or sport drink mixes I've had out there.
Yeah, I've never even heard of Tailwind. Do they make other stuff as
Yeah,
well? Or
so
is that
they have that's their main, I would say, product. But they have just regular electrolytes too, and then they have like what's called Tailwind Recover, which is kind of like an essential, like an EAA, essential amino acids, like recovery mix for after workouts. I personally only use their carbon electrolyte mix, but I've loved it, man. It's not given my stomach any issues. Really good ingredients. They pride themselves on that too. I think there's only, I want to say 5 or 6 ingredients total in it. Um, so I'm all about that too, especially like with the protein, like you mentioned with your girlfriend. I'm the same way. I used a lot of ways, a lot of different stuff in the past, and been really dialed in on like just putting stuff in my body that that has good ingredients and I know is going to benefit me. And I've been recently using Naked Whey protein, Naked Whey isolate. There's only 2 ingredients in it, and it's one of the only proteins I've been able to actually take that doesn't like break out my face. For some reason, it all goes to my face and like gives me really bad acne. Some of the proteins out there, so it's been really nice to find something that works with some good ingredients in it.
Yeah, one of the reasons I like the Equip beef protein is because you can just get it
Yeah,
unflavored. So it's
yeah,
literally just
Uh-huh.
beef whey isolate, one ingredient. Uh, unfortunately, my wife is not a. She's a little bit more leans to the
yeah,
flavor, so we got the one that's the 3 ingredient one. It's like the beef, cocoa
yeah.
powder, and
That's
like stevia or whatever.
that's the reason I like Tailwind too, because I get the
Yeah.
unflavored. They have flavored ones out there, but you can get the unflavored version. And there's
That's
still
awesome.
like I said, it's still, you almost taste a little bit of flavor, but it's like a salty. I don't know. I really enjoy it. But it's nice that you can get the unflavored one.
Are there any other supplements that you take, like fish
Yeah,
oils, magnesium,
yeah.
stuff like
Great
that?
question. So I take creatine every morning. Usually like 6 to 8 grams of creatine, around there every day. And I'm a huge advocate of creatine monohydrate. I think everyone should be taking it. Um, Lifting or working out or not, honestly, like there's benefits for cognitive function in your brain, all this stuff. So I highly recommend creatine. And then I do take a fish oil supplement. So I just take fish oil every day. And then I use magnesium glycinate. So we use, I think it's from Holier is the brand, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but it's a magnesium glycinate powder. So every
Okay.
night before bed, me and my girlfriend were kind of on this like bedtime routine. It's been really nice for us. We drink nettle leaf tea. So there's a lot of benefits in the nettle leaf for just like de-stress, recovery. There's some other benefits. I don't want to butcher it too much, but so we'll have that, and then we'll mix in our magnesium glycinate powder, which obviously is shown to benefit sleep and recovery. So ever since we've been doing that, man, I don't know if it's psychological at this point, but I've been
Yeah.
getting some really good Garmin sleep scores. So
Yeah. I'm a huge I'm the biggest sleep
yeah,
nerd out there. I dial that in. I've been doing it for a while. I think it's probably because me and none of my siblings feel the effects of like caffeine. We don't
yeah,
metabolize caffeine. So like when I drink caffeine, feel no different. I don't get alert, I don't
yeah,
get awake. Like so I've always had to prioritize my sleep because there's nothing like if I have a bad day of sleep, like I'm
yeah,
screwed. It's over. Um, so I've always dialed it in. Some of the biggest things for me is obviously a magnesium, a routine. So like going to
yes.
bed same time, waking up at the same time, so my body like shuts off. I'm a huge fan of like plugging my phone into a different
Amen, dude.
room and then
Amen.
like I turn
Yeah.
it off. So like an hour before bed, like that's off, and then we don't really watch TV as much, so like you just naturally kind of cycle down. My lights are turned low, and then I don't know if you've heard of Eight
I
Sleep,
have. Yeah. I've
but
never personally experienced it, but I've heard great things about it.
yeah, I've been rocking my Eight Sleep for probably like 3.5 years now. I've got the Pod 3, so they just came out with
Yeah.
the 5, so I'm still running like the third one. It's a champ, works great. Literally if that broke, I would spend the whatever thousands of dollars it is to buy another
So
one
it's that good.
immediately.
I'm
Like
gonna
I
have to,
can't,
I'm gonna have to
yeah,
dial it in, honestly.
I can't sleep
Yeah.
without it because I sleep so hot, and just the ability for it to just dial in your temperature and to be
hmm
cool. Like whenever I go and stay at somebody else's house or I go to a hotel, wherever it is, just
Yeah.
it's just like
Yeah.
my sleep hurt because I'm waking up and like the mattress
Oh
underneath
yeah.
you starts to
Yeah.
heat up. So I 8 sleep is, if you have the money, if people are available, it's a very expensive product. But for me, it's worth it in every capacity
Yeah.
because just the ability to get better
No, I'm
sleep.
gonna have to look into that because me and my girlfriend both like it super cool when we sleep. We usually keep our apartment around like 69 degrees. And then before, like an hour or two before we go to bed, we'll turn it down to 67. That's kind of like our
Nice.
dialed in temperature that we found for sleeping really
Yeah.
well. Um, and I do those routines you just talked about. I do the same thing, man. And it's one thing I work on with my clients too is just a sleep routine, like a before bed routine. A lot of people think about their morning routine, but I feel like not enough people out there dial in that like bedtime routine. So I do the same thing, man. I plug my phone in this room that I'm in right now. We're currently moving out of our place, so that's why the bed's bagged up back there. But
Okay.
um, I plug my phone in here like 8:30 or 9 p.m. I try to plug it in by then, kind of every night, or on the earlier side of that if I can. And then the same thing, I kind of dim my lights in our apartment and just really kind of like settle the mind down. And I found so much success in that. I used to be the kind of guy that was like, I can be good off 6 hours. Like sleep, it's not as big as people say it is, but then you get into running and running ultra marathons and that all changes. So I
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really dialed in my sleep while prepping for this 100 and started to see the benefits of just not only like feeling better throughout the day, but also like with how much volume I was putting in on my legs and in the gym, like, and just not being sore and being able to recover super fast. I credit it all to just getting like, 8 hours, almost 8 hours, like pretty much every night and more when I could. So I'm the same way, man. I love sleep now.
Huge. And it's always funny when people, if they don't have any kind of quality sleep tracker or anything like that, they're like, oh, I was in bed at 10 and I got
Yeah.
up at 6. That's 8 hours. Well, no,
Yep.
it's not, because you may have thought you went to bed at 10, but you were actually in bed at 10:30, and then you didn't fall asleep till 10:45, and then you woke up to go pee, and then you
Exactly.
toss and turn. So you actually only got 6 hours and 45 minutes. And so being able to have that information and prioritize your actual sleep, not just your time in bed,
It's
is
huge, man. What do you do about like hydration and water before going to bed? Do you try to limit like, cut it off at a certain time so you're not waking up to pee, or how do you do that?
yeah. That has been the biggest
Yeah.
fight of, because the ability, my one problem with my sleep is that I will, without fail, wake up at about 4 a.m. to go pee.
Yep.
And I have played with that. Like I've cut off my water intake like at 3. So like I front loaded
Yep.
my water super early and like cut it off. Doesn't matter. I'm
Yeah. I'm
waking
the
up.
same way, man.
So
I'm the
I,
same
I
way.
I don't even worry about it anymore. Like I'll drink my water when I'm going to drink my water, because it's going to happen no matter what. If I drink a ton of water before bed, I'll still only wake up that one time at
Yeah.
4 o'clock to go pee. So I've tried to play with it. It's not going away. I don't know what to do.
I know. I'm the same way. Like more times than not, it's at least one time, and it's usually around that same time, like 3 to 4 ish a.m. Um, but those times when I don't and I wake up and it's almost like my Garmin just knows. I'll get my highest sleep scores whenever I'm just sleeping straight through, and I'm like, I wish I could
Yeah.
dial this in like every night.
Yeah, for sure. There's I believe it's like a hormone in your brain, like when you sleep, that's supposed to like suppress your need to go to the restroom
Yeah.
to urinate. And for some reason, I just, maybe mine's produced
Underactive.
low, maybe it doesn't produce it. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I really wish I could, because that ability to sleep all the way through the night is like that rare one time out of a year that it does happen. It's
Yeah,
clutch.
man.
So
Yeah. Sleep is king.
if you ever figure it out,
Yeah, yeah. I'll keep
send
you
me the
posted for
note.
sure. I'll keep you posted for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time this morning to come talk to me about your journey into running and how you experienced that 100-mile run, as well as giving me some tips to help improve my endurance training for this 70.3.
Yeah, man.
I do have a tradition on this podcast where I ask the guests who would be the person that they would be most interested in speaking to or listening to on a podcast. And then I'll, of course, try to reach out to them and get them on if they're assuming they're live and well, and then credit them with you being the reason that they are on. And actually, one of the twins, Micah, we did a podcast last week, and she's the one who threw out your name. She's like, I don't know if you know who Sean is, but he just did 100 miles on
Oh,
the
that's
track.
awesome.
You need to talk to him. And so I reached out to you. So she was awesome for letting me reach out to you and bringing you into my Instagram feed and into my life, because you're awesome, dude. And you spread a great message. You're a fun person to talk to. Can't wait to follow
Yeah, I
along.
really appreciate that, man. It means a lot. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I'm just glad I could come on and we could chop it up. This is why I love podcasts, because it's just so fun. A good way to meet new people, and spread a good message.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you. Honestly, man, I think one person that would be great to come on here and chat with you and give a lot of good insight is one of my good friends, Edwin Martin. His Insta handle is Iron Sned. We call him Sned, but he spreads a really good message as well, man. Brings people closer to their faith, and he's got a lot of good wisdom for such a young age. So I want to shout him out, and would love to see him on here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to reach out to him and give him a chat sometime. Sweet, man. Well, again, I appreciate your time, and I hope to see the
Yeah, man.
next long distance run. Maybe I'll be trained by then, and I can come
Yeah,
out
man.
and
Heck yeah.
participate, because that'd be a good time.
Yeah. I'll definitely be posting about the next challenge sometime soon in the future, but taking the time right now to just reflect on the last challenge and figure out what's next. So
Smart.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Chase Merrill podcast.